So you're watching this video because you want to remove sound deadener and seam sealer, and I assume you're looking for an alternative to using dry ice. Dry ice works great unless you're in a time crunch. I say that because I'm on call with my job 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because of that, I'll be in the middle of using dry ice, I'll get a phone call, and I'll have to go to work. And I'll be gone 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, whatever. Come home, dry ice would be all done, and I barely got anything done. I wasted all that money on the dry ice, or then on the way back I'd have to bring more dry ice. That's a problem. So I found the method. We did this years ago. We've been doing it for years actually, because we can get this. So, forewarned, this is a big informational video. There's a lot of information, a little bit of work, because it's all repetitive. So I don't need to show you that. To get started, first off, you need your materials. Most important thing, respirator. You don't want to breathe this stuff. You need your heat source. Propane torch, it's good. You can get one of the cheaper setups, like this started out as a cheaper setup. It was like 15 bucks on sale with the bottle and a full run head, I guess you could call it. Basically, you turn it on and it shoots out the flame and it stays on. This is something I've had for a million years now. It's a like auto start head. You just click the button, it starts, blows flames, you let it go, the flame goes out. I like it that way because then you're not twisting a knob, twisting it off. It's a lot easier. Floor scrapers. This is a rigid scraper. The soft scrapers, as soon as like you're scraping and you hit a little hard spot, they're just going to bend. They're not going to get through it. These cut right through it and cut through the seam sealer at the same time. Last thing, pair of gloves. You need to protect your hands. You don't want to burn your fingers off, and you don't want to stab yourself with this. And when you're scraping, obviously, the sound deadener will build up on the edge, and you'll pull it off. That stuff's hot. Wear gloves. As far as difficulty, it's not difficult. It's just 1 out of 5. Like, anybody can do this. Seriously, anybody. Time consuming. Well, it's relative, actually. If you're working on it like I am, working on it in your spare time, working on it in between working your day job, it's going to take a while. I'd say probably a day to maybe 2 days, depending on how modern of a car. The newer the car, the more sound deadener, the more trouble you're going to have removing it. Starting out, you can see I've already cleaned it all out. And that's because I want to show you the different materials. There are actually a few different materials in this car. You have your standard material here. Then you have a different material there and there. Oh, and a different material there. This stuff came off really, really easy. It just pretty much flaked off with no heat. This stuff required a crap ton of heat, and so did that. This stuff seemed a lot more tarry, though. It sounds more heat deadener than sound. But when it comes to areas with seam sealer, you can see all the seam sealer that's been removed at the same time that I remove the sound deadener. It's going to take more heat, or you'll stab and you'll hit the sound deadener and it won't come up. So just put a little bit more heat to it and keep scraping. You may find these body plugs. What I do with these is I actually come through, you can see them, and I'll heat just this area and scrape out all the center, and then come through and scrape out the seam sealer because they're seam sealed in. The rest of the sound deadener and the seam sealer, but the sound deadener is actually over the top of them. Wheel wells are always fun. This is where heat method really, really shines. The only time it really shines. And you can see the line of where the sound deadener was. You can't really put dry ice there and get it to stay, so it's really nice using the heat. You just basically, I heated most of this area at once, probably from here down. Work the heat around, work it back, work it up, work it down until you see that texturing across the whole thing. I'll explain the texturing next. And scrape it. Now what I was showing you there is showing you how, you know, it's all dirty around here, and then now it's like tarry looking. And you can watch as it's trying to stay on fire by itself, and the texturing changes. It becomes like a little bubbly. Hopefully you can see that really good in the video. If not, the first time you do this, you'll see what I'm talking about. and it kind of cleans itself off. Right after it cleans itself off, it's going to start trying to stay on fire by itself. That lets you know you're good enough to go. You take the edge of your blade. This is the angled edge. Put it downward and scrape. Now, obviously I've been talking, so it's not as easy as it normally is. But it comes right up, along with, as you can see here, seam sealer comes up right with it. It's actually quite nice. I'm going to finish this out. Yeah, like I said, a lot of information, a little bit of work. I like actually doing these because anybody can do them. Anybody can technically jump into this. I just like to give a lot of the information, and it helps people that when they jump into it, they have the information they need. There's no real trying to figure it out. You have the information. Now when it comes to heat, the heat will vary depending on the material your car's used. If you're doing a 240, you're going to run into the same stuff that I'm using. If you're doing other cars, different companies use different companies. You know, Dodge, GM, stuff like that. American-made cars are going to use a different type of material for their sound deadener and their heat shielding and all that. Probably their seam sealer than this Nissan does. It's just the name of the game. You got to figure out the heat though. You don't want to put too much because you can warp the floors because you are scraping. So you add too much heat and you scrape, you're going to, you know, stretch the metal down. And you'll have to heat it up and shrink it back, unless you want a floppy floor. So, again, I hope all this information is great. I seriously do not suggest this method, unless it's like the wheel wells and stuff, over dry ice. Dry ice is much safer, it's much cleaner, it is better. The thing is, again, you might want to use this method. You might not have enough time to sit around and wait for the dry ice, like in between doing other stuff. You might heat, scrape a section of the floor, move on. Dry ice is more made like you can dump the floor, move to each section and clean this whole floor out in a matter of hours if you have that much time to work continuously. So, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, just comment below, hit me up on Facebook, whatever. It's Villain Garage Works Facebook, right? And subscribe because there's a ton of videos coming out for this car, some maybe for the FRS, other projects, little collaborations that a handful of us are working on in the local area. Local, I mean like an hour-and-a-half radius, because we don't have local people around here that do YouTube. Again, have a good whatever time of the day it happens to be, and enjoy yourself. Always, always enjoy working on your project.